you.
Okay. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Namah Shri Shankarananda Guru Padambu Janmane Savilasa Mahamoha Graha Grasaika Karmane. Let's chant verses number 53 and 54. Itham vakyaistadarthanu Itham vakyaistadartha Itham vakyaistadartha Anusandhanam Shravanam Bhavet Anusandhanam Shravanam Bhavet Yuktya Sambhavitatva Anusandhanam Mananam tu tat Tabhyam nirvichikitserthe Chetasasthapitasya yat Ekatanatvametadhi Nididhyasanam uchyate. So, up to this point, the fundamentals of the knowledge have been covered, and from this point on, from 53 all the way to the end of the chapter, what will be discussed will be how to make the vidya, the knowledge that has been contained in the verses so far, come true to yourself in your life. So, because there is a certain process involved in correcting the error, and it's a very great error with a lot of background that has been built up over a number of years, and even though we hear it and we listen to the meanings and we even grasp the meaning, but something keeps us from gaining full fruits of this action. So this is being discussed from now on. How do you make the knowledge which is understood to a certain point, but not to the degree that it really gives you the actual vision of who you are? And so here, just a quick revision on what we had done before, and it's an important point to see, that it is often thought by people who really don't know the Sampradaya very well, that it's a matter of theory and practice. First you kind of see what the theory is, kind of like a bookish theory, and then you have an experience. And so it is often understood that the person really does not, one who is very wise and who is a Jivan Mukta, the Mahatma, and so on, he has the experience. And those of us who kind of know a little bit about the Vedanta don't have that experience. This is often depicted as the process. So first you learn the theory and then you learn the experience. So here this is not true. and it should be very well understood by people that know, and people who are experts in this say this is not a good way to look at it. And this is not only not a good way, it is an incorrect way to look at it. Because you're always chasing for an experience, occasionally just getting some glimpses of it, and you don't know what exactly, how it is, and so on. So the correct way to look at it is, and we discussed this in the last class also, which is a kind of an advanced topic really. I'm giving it to you just as an introduction, but this really belongs in a more advanced class with over protracted number of days, so we will discuss it some other time. But basically the elements of the correct way to look at it is the following. The nature of ourselves, the nature of the Atma, the nature of the human being, the nature of anyone, any being, not just human being, the nature of the being is that of an experience. You have to increase the volume a little bit?
No,
okay, yeah. So, so really what it says is you should see that life is an experience. It's not as though up to this point you don't have an experience and after this you have an experience. It's not a correct way to look at it. Because the very nature of the Atma is that it's an experience. And furthermore, another very beautiful thing to see, I'm just covering before I go into the verses, another very beautiful thing to see, a very advanced and a very subtle thing to see, often not understood. Even in my study, it took me a long time to come to this. That I'm just giving you the some of the errors in the way this is approached. So another one is paroksha jnanam versus aparoksha jnanam. Okay, so one way to which is described by some of the acharyas is that your experiences are one of three kinds. One is called paroksha, one is called pratyaksha, and the third one is called aparoksha. So to give an example of this, a paroksha experience, paroksha, at least they all call it an experience, so that part is good. The paroksha experience consists of someone describing a remote place that you have never been to through some words. So this is what is called a paroksha experience, in the sense that you have a little bit of an experience about the place. The person says, you know, this is how it is, and there are beaches, and there are this, that, or the other. And then so you get some kind of an idea, oh, okay, interesting, very nice, okay. Is it in a big city? No, it's outside the city. It's in, so there's some kind of a description of it. But it's a description which gives you a kind of a vague experience of the place. This is called paroksha. And the second one is pratyaksha. Pratyaksha means right in front of your eyes. When you experience something, you meet someone and you shake hands with that person, and then you now have a pratyaksha experience. It is no longer remote, it is immediate. And it is said that the Atma, and this part of it is very correct in looking at it, that the Atma, you, is neither paroksha nor pratyaksha. First of all, you can never be paroksha. Never. Never be paroksha. And you are not pratyaksha. You are not in front of your eyes. You are the seer that sees things that are in front of your eyes. So one way of looking at this, Swami Dayanand used to say that, is that the Atma is called Aparoksha. And later on I will also talk a little bit about what is called Sakshat Aparoksha. So let's suspend that for a minute. So Yagyavalkya in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, when he is teaching this to King Janaka, he is saying Sakshat Aparoksha, which is understood, which is used this quite a bit. But let's suspend that for a minute. So Swami Dayananji also used to say this is the correct way to look at it, which is Paroksha, Pratyaksha and Aparoksha. So you understand that Aparoksha means, which is not Paroksha obviously, but it is not Pratyaksha either. So a word has been defined to uniquely define the category of the Aparoksha, because it is neither one or the other, and it is there. Atma is there, so it has to be what is called Aparoksha, not Paroksha. But you don't get into the specificity of Pratyaksha. So this is what is called Aparoksha. Now, going back to a more advanced view of this, which the more I think about it, it's really helped me in doing this, was pointed out by Vidyaranyaji in this in the seventh chapter of the Pancadasi, and also explained by Swami Maheshananji. It says that anything that you experience is Aparoksha. Is Aparoksha. Meaning that even the Paroksha Vastu, when it appears to you, it is Aparoksha only. And even the Paroksha Vastu, which is, you can say, so several things to talk about this, so just hang in there for a minute. So that means that the Atma is forever Aparoksha. So let's leave the Paroksha Vastu aside for a minute. Let's look at Pratyaksha. That's a better way, easier way to understand how Pratyaksha also is Aparoksha. So Pratyaksha means I'm looking at you, and my sight of you and your sight of me is, so let's go just take one thing at a time. So my sight of you is mine. See, this is my view. It's not away from me. You see that? Not away from me. Whatever I'm seeing, whether I'm seeing this or I'm seeing this or I'm seeing this, doesn't matter. But whatever I'm seeing is always Aparoksha. Always Aparoksha. And the only thing is that in this Aparoksha view, I have some people. And in some Aparoksha view, I have some vague description. Or the Paroksha Vastu is not there in my Aparoksha. You see? Not there in my Aparoksha. And doesn't matter. But if it is there, it is always Aparoksha. We grasp this. So the experience of and so this is now, this fact of the discussion between Aparoksha and Paroksha should be seen in light of the experience. So the Atma is always of the nature of an experience. It is never of the nature that it is not experienced. Now the only question is what experience? It is always an experience. And the only question is that in the experience, my conclusion is that there are things different from me. So the person, so I'll come back to it in a minute to summarize that point, but in any part of the life of any human being, of any being, let's say a human being, the experience is always there. The life is always in the form of an experience. And the experience is always aparoksha. Aparoksha means that it's not away from me. I just keep on looking at things, and whatever I'm looking at, it is just aparoksha. In the aparoksha experience, there is a problem. And the problem is that because of certain not understanding whether things are away from me or not or something, I make a wrong conclusion of Dvaita, that things are different from me. I am just here, you are there. It's very much like a wave of the ocean, which is the whole thing is nothing but water alone. But regardless of the truth about the water, it simply says other waves are different than me and they're bothering me. It discards the notion of the water and only hangs on to the Namarupa. So in conclusion, there is in fact no lack of experience at any time. So your experience is either tinged with some non-understanding, or the experience is now corrected with the correct understanding. That's all that happens. So it's not as though it was not an experience and now it's an experience. You see that? That should be very clear now. It's always an experience. Every moment of our lives is an experience. So the nature of the Atma is, it is an experience. So it is not correct to say this is theory and this is practice, because everything is practice. So the only thing is that it is inadequate practice and adequate practice, impure practice and pure practice. That you can say. See, this is a beautiful way to look at it. Just absolutely marvelous. It's the truth. The more you look into that, you find, yes, absolutely, you cannot negate this view. So therefore, and this has major implications, in fact, implications in how we are going to study. So this is a good way to start actually. I wasn't really planning to do that in this way, but I think it's a very good to start, because keeping this in mind, keeping the correct view of the experience in mind, now we can approach, because your basic questions, it's not as though it's going to make a dramatic difference. The processes are still the same. How? Because even if you say this is theory and practice, you still have to figure out how to practice the theory. And even if you say that this is inadequate experience versus adequate experience, you still have to figure out how to go from inadequate experience to adequate experience. So the sadhana is still there. But I would imagine that it should be done in the correct way. And so really speaking, when Swami Dayanandaji used to say that, it doesn't mean that, that this is, some people say this is intellectual knowledge. And that one is some wisdom knowledge. Hey, there's no intellectual knowledge and wisdom knowledge. Knowledge is knowledge. You know what it means? That what you consider to, when you say intellectual knowledge, it means inadequate knowledge. It's only one knowledge, one jnanam. Whether the jnanam is pure or impure, that is the only way, that is the correct way to look at it. I'm just revising that same statement. So this being the case, now how to go from an erroneous experience. Erroneous, this experience itself is not erroneous, that's a mistake on my part, I shouldn't say that. How to go from erroneous interpretation of the experience to the correct interpretation of the experience. That's all that matters. That one we agree with that. That you do not have enough data So in the case of the wave of the ocean, it's very simple to say, don't, stupid fool, don't you see you are water? You're just calling yourself a wave. You're not wave, you are water. How long will it take for it to understand that I am the water? Not much. There's only two things involved. Here, however, this is very complex. The fundamentals remain the same, but there are so many doubts that come in. How come this is the case? Then what bad things are happening to me? The other person is luckier. All kinds of things happen. And so that aside, the process remains the same. That so this is what is called Padartha Shodhanam. Padartha Shodhanam means, we will study all of this. Padartha Shodhanam means to purify the meaning of the sentences. And then once it becomes very clear, then it becomes very obvious. And so fundamentally, it just means that we have to figure out what the viveka is, and so on. So another thing to look at, a different entry into this same thing, is that we have talked about it, that there are two or three stages of the understanding. And so one stage of the understanding is, by the way, it all comes from the very beautiful text Drik Driksha Viveka. Rupam Drishyam Lochanam, they all starting with that. And then I don't think Swami Paramatmananda went into verse number 8 and 9, which are a very crucial understanding. I think he finished his discourses before that. Very briefly, I'll describe that today, and in fact, we will take it up again. The reason I'm doing this is because of the difficulty of understanding. In the case of the wave, it's very easy that you're the water, but in the case of the human beings, we are covered with so many doubts and so on, that it is not easy to see. This is an example of the kind of doubts that we have. So in the 8th verse of the Drikdisha Viveka, it says, what is it called? What should it say? It says, Ahankarasya tadatmyam Chitchaya deha sakshibhi. Okay. Sahajam karmajam bhrantijanyam chatrividham kramat. This is the very beautiful and a very deep verse. Once we should really understand this. This is the crux of the whole thing. Ahankarasya tadatmyam Chitchaya deha sakshibhi sahajam karmajam bhranti janyam chatrividham kramat. Here's the Sanskrit verse. The meaning of that is, ahankara means the I thought, this is me. You see, so the me-ness, I-ness, who am I, is a series of thoughts. Means this is me. Because if there is no thought, you cannot say you are still there even if there is no thought. No. It is held together only by a continuity of a thought. It's based on thinking. How can you say that? Because in deep sleep, there are no thoughts, and therefore the I-ness disappears. The ahankara disappears. And due to that, all the problems of the ahankara also disappear. The ahankara itself is not there, and so we actually collect a lot of our problems along with the ahankara. It's like a rolling ball. If you have a rolling ball, then it's going to collect a lot of dust. If the ball is not rolling, then there is no dust. So the ahankara is the thought, series of thoughts. This is me. What the thoughts are define what kind of me it is. And so, so this is the thing. It's often it is said that really your thoughts define you. When you say this is not a good person, that means from an appearance there is nothing good or bad. You can say he's a fat person or a thin person, but you cannot say it's a good person or a bad person. The goodness and the badness comes from the thought. Anyway, so the ahankara, the nature of the ahankara based on thoughts. So the ahankara is central to this analysis. Me. Who is this me? And therefore, why is it so difficult for me to understand the truth about myself? So I'll bring in some of the previous discussions we've had on this topic. I'm sure this was in this class also. I've been trying to do it in all the classes. So, consider yourself standing in front of a mirror. This is the example. And it's interesting, if you look at some of the analysis of this verse, Drikdrishya Viveka Ahankarasya Tadatmyam. I was reviewing this by Swami Nikhilananda of Ramakrishna Mission, who has written a commentary on this. And the example he takes up in describing this verse is the Surya being reflected in a pond of water, sun being reflected in the pond of water. Accurate. You can use that example. Not nearly as effective as the example given by various acharyas at different places, but to explain this verse by Swami Maheswaranji, and in fact by Vidyaranya himself. This combination of Vidyaranya and Maheswaranji is just dynamite. I'm discovering, just as a somewhat of an experienced reader and student of Vedanta. I've been doing this for a long time. I have not seen such a beautiful, precise, clear, useful commentary. It's just a treasure. Panchadashi, it's just amazing. But anyway, going back to this example, Swami Maheswaran and Vidyaranyaji takes the example of a person standing in front of a mirror. Let's follow this for a minute. I'm just going to do a little explanation of this, and then hopefully we'll go back to it. It's all related. So follow this example. So there's a person, and so there is a mirror, and you're looking at your reflection in the mirror. Now, so ahankara has a tadatmyam. Tadatmyam means it has a you are identified. Remember, I was talking about identity. So you are identified with something. So standing in front of a mirror, you have three kinds of identities. One identity is with the reflection in the mirror. This is one identity. The other identity is with the body reflected in the mirror. Very close to the body which you are. Very little difference between them. Unless the mirror is distorted, the body showing in the mirror is your body, very accurately. This is the second one. Okay? And the third one is the important one. And the third one is, you may mistakenly see the reflection not as a reflection but really you. These are the three types of identification. So now let us go back to the verse. Ahankarasya tadatmyam chitchaya deha sakshibhi. So the tadatmyam is of three kinds. One is chitchaya. Chitchaya means your reflection. Chitchaya means, this is also called chidabhasa. Chidabhasa means chit abhasa. Abhasa means one that looks like chit. One that looks like chit. It is not chit, but it looks like chit. This is called chidabhasa. And this is also called chitchaya. So the reflection looks like you. So this is one kind of identification. You have the person standing there has one kind of identification with the reflection. Okay, chitchaya. This identification will never go. So that's why it is said, ahankarasya tadatmyam chitchaya deha sakshibhi sahajam. So sahajam means that it is normal. What it means, Swami Maheswaranji pointed out so well, is that as long as you are looking at the reflection as a reflection, there is no problem. It will always be there. You cannot say that I want the reflection to go away. This is stupidity. And I'll tell you why this is an important thing to see. It is said that when a person becomes wise to understand that the Atma is asangaha, has no connection, and so on, you feel like that the whole world should disappear. Only then the person will be a jnani. And there are people who believe this. There are schools of thought that are based on this. That as long as the jnani is alive, he is not a jnani. And we'll come back and close this loop in a minute. So let's go on. So the first identification is with the chitchaya. No problems. As long as you don't have bhranti that the reflection is in fact me. You don't have an identity with yourself. You only have the identity with the reflection. And this can happen. This happens with animals, it happens with very young kids, and it happens with drunken people. So if you go to these funny mirrors that convex and concave where you make you very tall or very fat or something, you don't get upset. You make faces at it. It pleases you. Wow, very interesting. Because the viveka between the reflection and you is very clear. So, okay, now this I'll come back to and I'll close the loop on that in a minute. Now let's go to the third one, which is that your identification is not only with the reflection in general, but with a specific body. So closing the loop on this, ahankarasya tadatmyam chitchaya deha sakshibhi. And the tadatmyam is sahajam in the case of chitchaya. Sahajam means no problems. And so Swami Maheshanji said that as long as the reflection is there, when you're looking at the mirror, the reflection will be there. You cannot say, let the reflection disappear, only then I will become wise. No. Let it be there. Harmless. It's beautiful. You can make faces at it. Then, the identification with the body is karmajanyam. You are the one that worked hard to order this body in your previous life. You will say, why did I do this? Why didn't I offer a better birth? This is the way it happens. It's all your own specifications. You wrote it personally with the help of Ishvara. Ishvara said, are you sure? Are you sure you want to be this? He says, yep, this is what I want to be. It's okay. There's going to be some problems. I'll deal with it. Doesn't matter. So this is personally karma phala. And only when the connection with the body is broken, then the identification will start with something else. But until then, the identification with this body will continue. Okay? So these two are covered. The third one is the toughest. Bhrantijanya. Bhrantijanya means, effectively, you no longer look upon your reflection as reflection. You look upon it as you. So, you look upon your body and the rest of the bodies are a reflection. But you don't think that. You think, I am this body. And this relationship with the body is due to ignorance, Brahma. When this Brahma is removed, and it will be removed. So here where the issue is that in the case of a person standing in front of a mirror, this kind of a Brahma is not normally possible. Because if you have a mind, you can see easily that I am different from the reflection. But in cases your mind is not developed enough, it is possible. The child doesn't know, and there are in our shastra it is written that the child asks his mother that I want this person to play with me, but he is not coming. Or the dog feels very strange. Or a drunken person may not understand who he is, may smash the mirror or something like that, or one on drugs. So really speaking, the viveka between, the non-viveka between yourself and the reflection is the result of Brahma. In our case, myself as being different from my body is not clear at all. If I could see myself as being different from the body, which is evidence is given to me in the dream state and in the deep sleep state, would I reject it? Oh, that's not the reality. This is the reality. And the reality is that I am the body. This is born out of Brahma. And until the Brahma is removed, this Tadnatmyam will continue. You see, this is the thing. So we have often talked about it, that you can perhaps shut your eyes from the other things and say, okay, I'm not affected by the outside world, I can somehow control it. But what about yourself? How are you going to get separated from yourself until it is pointed out by the Shastra repeatedly? This is why the whole exercise after the Shravanam begins. So it's very difficult. Very difficult. It doesn't have to be, but it usually is. That I cannot separate myself from. So this is an important verse. Ahankarasya tadatmyam chitchaya deha sakshibhi sahajam karmajam bhranti janyam chatrividham kramat. Respectively, this is how it happens. And what happens is that when a wise person is able to see the distinction between the body and myself, the Atma and the Anatma, then the presence of the body is no longer a problem. Like a person who is able to clearly see that this is my reflection, not me. You don't want to smash the mirror and say, I don't want to see you again because you confuse me. No, stupidity. Let it be there. Now when it comes to the tadatmyam with the deha, there is nothing you can do. Prarabdha karma. Until this life ends, you will only be connected with this body. You cannot say, I wish I could be that body. No, that you cannot be. And you've already proven that you are not the body anyway. What difference does it make? It's fun. Because the Bhranti has been removed. So anyway, all this elaborate sidetracking was only done to prove that it is not an easy matter for you to extract the essence of yourself as being separate from your body, and it requires a lot of effort. That effort is being summarized in the verses 53 to plus. So let's look at that. We already looked at the number 53, but we'll perhaps revise it to make sure that it is in line with what we were talking about. So there are two parts to 53, obviously. The first part is Itham vakyaihi tadartha anusandhanam shravanam bhavet yuktya sambhavitatva anusandhanam mananam tutat. So notice that there are two words that are the same in the first line and the second line, which is anusandhanam. And we went over this in the last class to a certain degree, and we will expand this a little bit more today. Anusandhanam. So anusandhanam has two parts to it. One is the prefix anu, and the other one is sandhanam. So sandhanam means a thinking, enquiry, persistent inquiry until you understand. This is called sandhanam. Anusandhanam means after something, not independent, but after something. This is a very big topic in Vedanta, especially when some of the other schools of thought criticize us and say that why do you, for example, why do you have to believe in Vedas? You don't have to believe in Vedas. You can read, you can analyze it anywhere. No, you cannot do that. It is only possible through the Vedas. It's interesting. The question is, I'm just expanding on this part here, Anusandhana. Question is why? Why is it why you have to listen to the Vedas? Why can't you look at some other books and so on? And there are lots of reasons for it, but the key reason is, this is an important thing to see. Key reason is that the human being is the result of what is called adhyasa. Adhyasa means an error. An erroneous happening is called adhyasa. And so the very birth of the human being is due to adhyasa. The reason you and I are here is because we are ignorant of our true nature. And we want to really, we are in the search of finding the true nature, so we have to be in a position to be able to do so. So we have to take a birth. This is the real reason. Anyway, going back to it, the human being is a result of an adhyasa. Okay? And therefore, whatever I create is within the realm of adhyasa. You see? This is what it is. If my birth itself, if my very nature itself is adhyasika, therefore my realm is also within the realm of adhyasika, adhyasa alone. And therefore it is never possible for me to write about the real truth. Never. Not possible. And so any human being that writes about spiritual things independently is erroneous. No matter how smart you are, doesn't matter. You can be extremely smart eventually, and this is our experience, my dear students. This is proven over millions of years that no one, and you know, for example, there are 6 schools of thought in the Vedic system. In the Vedic system, there are 6 schools of thought. So there is Purva Mimamsa, there is Uttara Mimamsa, and Vedanta is called Uttara Mimamsa. We'll talk about why it is called some other time, and I think you may already know it. So these two are the Karma Kandinaha and the Jnana Kandinaha. Purva Mimamsa is Karma Kandinaha, and Uttara Mimamsa is Vedanta. Then you have Sankhya and Yoga, Nirishwara Sankhya and Seshwara Sankhya, which is called Yoga. So these 6 are actually coupled into families of 2. First 2 are very similar, or not very similar, but they are closer together. Sankhya and Yoga are the next 2. And then Vaisheshika and what's the 6th one? I forget the name of it. Anyway, so the Vaisheshikas, the 2 of them, Nayayika, Nyaya, thank you. Nyaya and Vaisheshika. So Vaisheshikas are the scientists over the period of time. Scientists. So you look at the entire realm of science, people who are doing research, that we are looking for the ultimate particle and we'll find it, and so on and so forth. We've been doing that for a number of, hundreds, thousands, and millions of years. Theories have been changing. And none of them produced Jivan Muktas. No, it has been proven, absolutely. You cannot give an example. There may be wise people who are relatively happy but not totally happy. And the reason for that is that human beings, when they do sandhanam, they are doing within the realm of adhyasa. Only Ishvara, who has no adhyasa, who is the creator of adhyasa, who is in fact out of the adhyasa, alone can give us the truth that we have to do. And therefore, anusandhanam instead of sandhanam. We have to follow the thing. And so the Swami Maheswaranji has, in Hindi, he has given this very beautiful thing. He says, I'll just say Hindi first and then I will translate that into English. So he says, Sandhanam means kuch ho sakta hai. Anusandhanam means aisa hi ho sakta hai. So now the English translation. He says, Sandhanam means it is possible. So the minds are very fertile. You can come up with all kind of creative ideas. I think it is, there was a big bang. And then the world is expanding. And after it finishes expanding, there's going to contract. And then they will all be collected together into this dense mat called white heat and all those kinds of things. These are just theories. And some of them actually have some basis for it. So, sandhana means something is possible. Kuch ho sakta hai. Anusandhana means aisa hi hoga. Whatever it is been given. So in fact, this is exactly the second verse, the second line of the verse. Yuktya sambhavi tattva anusandhanam mananam tu tat. So I've given you the final answer. I was going to take more time. But the second one is that the mananam means to see again and again, this alone is possible, nothing alone is. And get and hold on to the hands of Ishvara. Don't let go. Just whatever you say, sir, this must be true. I don't get it. It's kind of like, you are wandering around in some kind of a fair with children. Most dangerous thing to do, to leave the children on by themselves. It happens all the time. One moment the child is fascinated at something and the mother is looking at something else, they're separated. And it is the anguish of finding with each other. Sometimes even the child is not able to tell who my mother is. It's 2-year-old, crying. And they finally have to announce, there is a crying 2-year-old or some very young baby, and then your mother says, oh, good. So he says, never leave the hands of your mother. And the mother should not leave the hands of the baby. So similarly here also, all of our inquiries must be done holding the hands of Ishvara. And there we can say, I don't like this, Ishvara, what to do? And I don't understand this, Ishvara, what to do? Please help me. But it has to be holding the essence of Ishvara himself. And so this is the main meaning of Anusandhanam. Okay, so now what I was saying was that this word Anusandhanam appears twice. One is in the first line and one is in the second line. This is an important thing to see. So I'm giving you some advanced introduction to what is Shravanam, Mananam, and Nididhyasanam, and so on, not the usual words, and so on. Just based on commentaries and my own experience and so on. So he says, Itham Vakyaihi Tat Artha Anusandhanam Shravanam Bhavet. Shravanam means to listen, to grasp. And that grasping and that understanding consists of Itham Vakyahi. Itham Vakyahi means all the various sentences that were talked about earlier, which is Tattvamasi. And also before that even, in terms of the yukti, of the Panchakosha Viveka and so on, all of those kinds of things. And so he says, through these sentences, their meaning, the going over their meaning again and again is called Shravana. Called Shravana. And how, in what manner is this, you're saying this is advanced and so on? Here Swami Maheshwaranji gives this example that look, if you look at the principle of the process of teaching a very young kid about sentences, words, about arithmetic, about counting 1, 2, 3, there's a process involved. So one is that if you want to write, I've forgotten all this. Even my grandkids are now old enough, I've forgotten. But really, Swamiji says that you have to hold the hand of the kid and say, okay, write 1. You're holding the hand. And then you say, write 2, like this. And you do it again and again, not just once. Then, the next step is you don't hold the hand of the child. You tell the child, please write this. And some of the figures that the children make are amazing. The one will be from one page to the other. And he thinks this is 1. You said it was something kind of a straight thing. This is 1. And you said, no, it has to be a little bit smaller and be vertical, not slanted. All those kinds of things have to happen. And then when it becomes a little bit more complex, then what is said is that you make dots and you say you connect it. Even writing a 1, you have to say, okay, just go like this and then write a line and then do like this becomes 1. Like that you do. And so you make dots into it and then you practice over it. And then you said not just this is just one word, O-N-E. Then the words have to be connected. Then it becomes a sentence. And the sentence has to be repeated. And then the meaning of the sentence comes next. Isn't this? This is how it is done. And so, all that meaning of the sentences is what is meant by, even to that point, Itham Vakyaihi Tad Artha Anusandhanam Shravanam Bhavet. So this is exactly what we do. We say Atma has Panchakoshaha, Annamaya Koshaha. And you say, oh, Annamaya Koshaha, Manomaya Koshaha. This is number 2. Then we give, Pranamaya Koshaha, Manomaya Koshaha, and so on. Then you say, this is Rajogunaha. So you are the basics of the human being, how the bodies are formed, what is subtle body. This is just like 1, 2, 3. And this cannot be just done once and you say, okay, now you all understand, okay, let's go on to the... No. This is what... exactly what has to be done over and over again. And here, it's interesting, I'm actually jumping ahead a little bit because I mentioned this thing called Sakshat Aparokshat Brahma. Sakshat Aparokshat. Very beautiful example that Swami Maheshananji gives. Beautiful. He says that, and I remember I also didn't quite know the distinction between these two. Between Sakshat, so Sakshat means directly. And Aparokshat means an experience, an immediate experience. So, I used to think those two are the same. And I didn't understand it. Swami Maheshananji gave this example in two different ways. So look at this example in two ways. He said that suppose someone has been introduced to you. This is such and such. And this happens to me all the time as I'm growing older. I'm telling you, this hits home right away. This happens all the time, and you probably experienced it. That you have introduced yourself to me, but it has not yet registered in a way that I can, as soon as I see you, I say hi. Many times I will ask you, what is your name again? So I know I asked Andrea some time ago, and some other people as well. So this is what is called aparoksha, but not sakshat. Not sakshat. Sakshat means it is so clear that as soon as I see you, I know exactly what your name, your rupam is, and so on and so forth. That happens if you just have continuous exposure in meeting with that person. This is one example, beautiful example. And so what this means is that it's very possible that sometime or the other, you had been somewhat clear about the Atma in some class or the other, it just made sense to you, yes, and so on and so forth. Still too vague. Still too vague. You cannot, in fact, what will happen is that you will need to just close your eyes and the whole thing will flash in front of you very clearly. Then it will become sakshat, aparokshat. Until then it is aparokshat. Everything is aparokshat, but not sakshat. This is one example. The second example he gave someplace else is somebody comes into this room and say, is some name of a person like Narendra. Is Narendra here? And we can say yes, he's here. What else do you want to know? Now, he is looking at about 20 people, and that means, and he's separated the women from the men because Narendra is a man's name. And out of the 10 people, he's sitting there, but he doesn't know which one. You also told him the truth. He's also believed the truth. He's not like, I'm lying. He says, is Narendra here? And I said, I don't think so. He's sitting right there. So I also say he's there. He also believes that I'm there. But he has not met him. So there is aparoksha but not sakshat. That introduction has not been properly done. So this is the process by which Shravanam has to proceed. So the gist of this is, Shravanam doesn't mean just once. I talk about Panchakosha Viveka and it's done. And you go out and I give you an exam and I'm saying, what were those 5 koshas? And you say, I don't remember, you told me about it. This is not learning. It has to be right on the tip of your nose. What names are there? But what is the relationship of them? Why is it the case and this is just one of many, only then you can say Shravanam is done. So this is what is Shravanam. And so now we can connect it to the first line. Itham vakyaihi tad artha anusandhanam Shravanam bhavet. Means again and again the meaning of those sentences. Don't just repeat the sentences. Because if you repeat the sentences, you know what that is? It's called chanting. Chanting. And chanting has some beauty to it, and some, at least, increases your memory and so on. But there's nothing. You don't understand the meaning of it, and so on. So here, vakyaihi artha, the meaning of the words. So when the students are, this is exactly what happens. When you are in KG, you are asked to just put down 1, 2, 3, 4. Then you go to first grade, their words are given to you. By second grade, the meaning of the words are given to you. Slowly, slowly, slowly. I am really amazed. The other day I was talking to my brother-in-law's grandson, 6-year-old, yesterday. And so I was just chatting with him. I said, what did you do over the weekend? 6-year-old, just turned 6, little kid. And the guy says, I saw 2 movies, which is, what's it called? This, where these books, I don't remember the name of it, just look at it. The Harry Potter. They saw 2 movies of Harry Potter. I said, you saw 2 movies of Harry Potter? He says, yep. And I've read 3 books of Harry Potter. Oh my gosh, the Harry Potter books were about 1.5 times as thick as this book. And he had them all. He says, I've already read 3 of them and I'm going, 6-year-old, how could you have read all this? He says, yep, I'm reading it. Amazing. So this is called Shravanam. For him, Harry Potter is complete. If you can understand Vedanta to the same degree, not even understand, if you listen to it and you know all these elements, Shravanam is complete. Is it complete? I'm not so sure. So all I just want to say is that Shravanam doesn't mean just listening once. It means a complete understanding of the very basics, the very elements of it, and so on. Viveka, Vairagya, Shakka Sampatti, all those kinds of things. And so really, quite honestly, even my Shravanam is still going on. It's a lifetime thing. Don't just think, oh, I did this already, I know this. No. So, that's the first line. Itham vakyaihi tadartha anusandhanam Shravanam bhavet. This is the Shravanam. Then comes the second line. Let me see if I'm missing something about the first line that I could. So he was just giving some more examples of this in terms of what Shravanam means. He says, I just give some typical examples of this. He says, the 5 Pancha Mahabhutas, the Viveka of that, then from the Pancha Mahabhutas how Sukshma Sharira is born, then how then gross bodies are born. 3 types of powers, and all of that, etc. That when it is complete, then you can say Shravanam. And the Mananam hasn't even started yet. First you have to see what is Ishvara telling me. Why am I not, why is there aviveka in my mind? Why is there Brahma? What is it being said? What is the nature of the Atma? What is the nature of the Anatma? How are the two related? So all of that is called Shravanam. This is what is called Tatparya Nishchaya. So you look at various, and another very beautiful thing is that there are different books, and when you read them, their languages are all different, examples are all different, but they all point out to the same thing. Beautiful. And here Swami Maheshananji says, please, our literature is so rich that you'll never get bored. There's always new ways of looking at it, and so on. Then we can say Shravanam is now, you have far along it, now you start to think. And think what, which we will do next week? Think about how your daily experiences versus what is being communicated in the Shravanam don't see eye to eye. Why? That process of inquiry and understanding is called Mananam. And so that we will go into a little bit more detail, which is the second line of the verse number 53. Yuktya sambhavitatva anusandhanam. There also is anusandhanam. Anusandhanam is the same. But through yukti, how which is sambhavitatvam, how it is possible, that would be called Mananam. So we will do that next. Om asato ma sadgamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya mrityor ma amritam gamaya. Om purnamadav purnamidam purnat purnamudachyate purnasya purnamadaya purnamevavashishyate. Om shanti shanti shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Question?
So if aparoksha jnana is same as pratyaksha, so why do we define pratyaksha? Why talk about pratyaksha?
Because it is just, there also you can say, this is an advanced view, but a less advanced view is the distinction between pratyaksha and aparoksha, means atma and anatma. So any anatma is pratyaksha. Any anatma can either be pratyaksha or paroksha. But atma is always aparoksha. But here in this understanding, your combined experience of atma and anatma is also an aparoksha. Also aparoksha. It's a very beautiful verse in the following this introduction in the Panchadosh, in the Panchadashi. The next one is, wait a second. This really cleared a lot of doubts in my mind. What it was is that it says that, wait a second, when you say that everything, I understand you're saying that I'm looking at a view which is aparoksha, okay? But you are not looking at a lot of other views, the whole world is you're not looking at. So isn't that something, but you're only looking at a partial view? How can you say that the Atma is completely aparoksha? You see what I'm saying? So that you don't have anything else. So that means you're just looking at a portion of it. And just by the portion of it, how can you define the whole thing as being aparoksha? So the argument that Vidyaranya gives is, hey, the same thing is true for people who are Dvaitins. How? Because when you say that the world is all Dvaita, don't you also extend just a partial view of the Dvaita into everything? In other words, you're looking at a table, you're only looking at this table, not all the tables of the world. So by looking at this table, you say this is Dvaita. And now you extend it to say, therefore all the other tables are also Dvaita. Correct, correct. The same thing is true for Advaita. Beautiful argument. So the Advaita means that whatever you have, and so really what it means is that whatever you see is mithya. Whether you see it or you don't see it, it doesn't make any difference. Anything that you see is mithya. And you don't have to see the whole world to conclude that the world is mithya. See, the objectioner says that, okay, I understand that the room that you're seeing is mithya. Mithya in the sense that you are still there, but it comes and goes. This is what the definition of mithya is. But you cannot extend it to all the things in the world because you have not seen everything else. So the Advaitin says, just like you also conclude that everything is Dvaita by looking at a few things, I can also say that everything is Advaita, everything is mithya. That's how it is. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not sure how I would state the question. On the one hand, we said the very birth is a delusion.
Is a result of ignorance, yeah.
A result of ignorance. And yet, we are saying that a jnani can get it. Jnani is also born, isn't it?
Is born, yes. But if a jnani makes the shraddha on Ishvara, you can get out of the whole thing. If you rely only on your pure understanding, you cannot get out. But
as long as he thinks he is an individual, he can't get it.
no, that's not true, because it's just like saying that a wave of the ocean can never understand he's the whole ocean, as long as he's the wave of the ocean. That's not true, because the entire ocean is nothing but water. And so his identity now has extended itself to the entirety of the ocean, not just to, and he can continue to be a wave, but he now says, oh my goodness, I cannot believe it. I am also in all the other waves. I am in the whole ocean. My God. Yeah, so yeah, it doesn't make any difference at all.
So in other words, we are seeing all upadhis of Ishvara.
In a very understandable way. I mean, not just the words. Just the words are upadhi means that your experience is still not pakka. It is still kacha,
Correct.
still kind of soft. But the pakka means that yeah, we will go into this. So exactly what happens is that you see that this is what is called theory and practice in a way, that you are kind of thinking, yes, this is but that's not my. When somebody gives you a slap, then the body all goes away. Then you start fighting with him right away. Whereas in the case of a jnani, that wouldn't happen. He would laugh at it and say, what the heck, why are you doing this to me? It's okay, but don't do it. And so it'll be difficult to see that. Yeah.
When you're saying that we are experiencing Atma, so that means am I not objectifying the Atma? Like
No, you're not seeing the Atma that way. So the thing is that whenever you see something, you see it as nothing but your reflection.
That's it.
So in that way, when you're seeing your reflection, you never see yourself.
That's it.
You never see yourself. In the whole life, you cannot see your own face without a reflection. But when you see a reflection, you don't say that's me, but you say that's me. So yeah, that's the way to look at it.
That's so niti, that by saying that my reflection on me, then I'm identifying who I am
Yeah,
by niti.
yeah. So really speaking, it is wrong to say that that you should not be active in the world. That you should just close your eyes and look at the Atma. No. Swami Meshan just made very clear that really you should be active, but while you're active, you should say, oh my God, this is just my reflection. Chitchaya avishtav buddhav. Dikdishya Viveka will perhaps do that text one more time some one of these days. But everything is nothing but, there's only one chit, which is me. And everything else is a chit chaya. Everything else is a reflection of the chit, jnanam. And so there is no problem in dealing with the world, as long as you correctly identify it as not, that is not me, or that it is in fact my reflection alone is me. So there, I think that Swami Dayananda also used to say this in his own words. He says, I think that if you look at only others, then your understanding is not going to be very deep. But if you include yourself in the, yourself meaning your mind, body, mind, and so on and so forth, if you include that also along with others in the samsara, I'm also part of the samsara, then you have a very good way of understanding the distinction between the Atma and the Anatma. But as long as you isolate yourself, you're only dismissing the world but not dismissing yourself, you have a problem. It won't really, you won't reach
Same
that.
as what Arjun did in the Vishwarupa, he excluded himself.
Yes, is it right? I'm not sure about that part. I haven't read that chapter as thoroughly as I would like to. So if I'll take your word for it, that's what he did. Yeah, I would think so, yes. That when he was afraid of, when you are afraid,
he took
yes.
himself out of that Vishwarupa.
Yes. Yeah, I think you're right. Okay, very good. Thank you. We'll see you next week.